Hello everybody, I'm Andy Lagopis, and with me is my ever-lovely co-host.
Pinkstar, very glad to be here once again.
Yeah, glad to be back. Sorry it took a bit longer than expected, 2 months instead of one. Funny thing about that, bit of news, I got a new job.
Congratulations!
Thank you! It is on top of my pre-existing job, so I went from working like 15 to 20 hours a week, all the way up to like 50 plus hours a week. So, got real busy real fast.
Well, but at least payment is better?
No, it's not paid yet.
Oh, but is it better than before, as in what you will expect?
Hopefully. Like, it's actually surprisingly adjacent to ZNN, sort of, in that I am having to lead an organization.
Oh, that's interesting.
Only this time, it's a tech startup. Woo!
Oh, okay.
Yeah, doing cybersecurity compliance. And that's all I'm going to say on the podcast, because otherwise, you'll be able to track me down.
Well, let's get back on track on Zootopia.
Yes, Zootopia. Specifically, Zootopia fanfiction.
Oh, yeah. This is one that we have mentioned previously on the last episode, that it was called Armellotopia, which is written by our well-known Pandora, or Paperclipbutterfly.
Yep, good friend of ours. She has a very fun writing style. Before we get into it, I would like to say thank you to all of our lovely supporters on Patreon. Y'all are making this possible, and remember, if we get to $150 on the Patreon, then we will do a specific episode that you, the listeners, get to choose. So, anything you want us to talk about, we will talk about.
So go ahead and check out the Patreon of ZNN.
Yes, just patreon.com/ZNN. We'll work on updating it a bit, make a bit more rewards, come up with something to give you guys, you know? But in the meantime, any and all support is greatly appreciated. It allows ZNN to stay running all these years later. And if you want to hear bloopers and random nonsense from stuff that gets cut out, like what we just did, yeah, we'll put together a blooper reel once we've got enough bloopers. Blah. See, I just did one. And we'll make a new...
enough material from all the episodes we have recorded so far and future ones, and it's gonna be on a reel, and you get able to listen here on the Patreon itself.
Hear all of my many bleh and bleh and bleh.
So let's go back on track.
Yes. Going back to the topic of today, it is Armellotopia by Paperclipbutterfly, aka Pandora.
As you can see, well, the title itself, it's a mix of Armello and Zootopia, which in this story, Armello is a role-playing game that you can say that it's kind of a parody of Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah, definitely. It's a tabletop RPG in that RPG in that same genre as D&D, except in the real world, Armello is a video game, which you can buy on Steam for $24.99.
It's a bit pricey.
It is a little pricey, especially with all the expansions being $10 a pop. Like, that's a bit much.
Yeah, it does. But fortunately, maybe you're able to buy it in what it called?
There will be a Steam sale at some point.
Yeah, there'll be a sale, exactly that. Or you can find it maybe 40% off or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. Truth be told, I have not actually played Armello.
Oh. Okay.
I know the gist of it. I know that it's kind of like a hex-based board game of sorts, in air quotes, and in the center is the Mad King, and you're each playing a character from one of the different clans, and I know nothing beyond that.
Oh. Well, in my case, well, I rarely get the chance to play role playing games itself. Like, I don't know, it's never been a thing for me. I
Like
don't think it
D&D
doesn't
sort
count.
of style, or
Yeah,
like computer role-playing games?
in general, I've it's very rare for me to play a role playing game. I think the most we can say is just the RPG classic that you get to play as yourself insert or something like
Hmm.
that. I think it's
Okay.
the closest thing, but technically it's you are still the main character. So beyond that, like I don't choose a specific role like in D&D. Like I want to be a magician. I don't know. I want to be able to fight or something like that. Like
Yeah, mage, warrior, fighter, wizard, whatnot.
yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
haven't. I get rarely get the chance to play something like that because
Ah.
it's not really
Well,
my
we
thing.
should rectify that at some point. We should
Perhaps.
definitely do that at some point if we remember to and have time, which will be the greatest limiting factor, as all DMs know. Your true enemy is never the big bad evil guy, it is the calendar.
Yeah, that's true. Exactly. But
Hmm.
going
I,
back.
on the other side, am a seasoned DM
Oh, okay.
or dungeon master, so I know good amount about the role-playing tabletop side of things, even though I don't know anything about Armello itself beyond what I just said.
Oh, yeah. Okay, okay.
So, yeah, this is an interesting concept. It's an interesting idea to take Armello and make it a crossover with Zootopia. I mean, the two do seem to mesh well. Like the idea of animal, like woodland animal RPG mixed with Zootopia, like it fits. It's like their medieval era sort of style thing.
I think that's the main theme in general. That it's kind of like medieval stuff.
Yeah, it's a medieval esque setting with like anthropomorphic animals, which leads into the premise of this story where Armello is not a computer game in this world, but rather the premier tabletop role playing game, much like Dungeons and Dragons is in our world.
Yeah, well, and here we have original characters. Like we feature, obviously, there is Judy and Nick, and there's also Wolf Lord.
Yeah,
But
Wolford.
Wolford, sorry. Yeah, but
No, no, he plays a wolf lord, but he is not Wolford.
oh, sorry. Okay, okay,
No worries.
okay, okay. I
He's
get mixed
yeah.
up also, but yeah. We have also original characters, and in this case are called Vincent and Melanie. And well,
Yes.
Melanie is actually interested in this game because, well, a patient of hers is kind of obsessed in a way with this game, and she wants to comprehend what's the big deal on the game,
Hmm?
and that's why she suggests for Vincent to, if they could play the game and also try to get more participants, so they can have
Yeah.
more of an actual idea what is the big why her patient is so enthusiastic about this game.
Yeah. So, for a little bit of background on these two characters in particular, as Pinkstar said, as you said, they are original characters from another story that Pandora wrote, which is called "What Happened at Night," NITE. They are, well, two mental health professionals that the ZPD brings in to help deal with the trauma from the Night Howler incident. And one of them is, as we said, Dr. Melanie Leuca? Leuca?
I think it's
She.
Leuka.
Leuca, yeah.
I think so.
Something like that. She works for the ZPD as the station counselor. And the other original character, Dr. Vincent Buckner, is a reindeer who used to be Melanie's therapist before she went on to become a sort of a partner in his practice. They work together, they're colleagues now. So that's a bit of background about these two original characters that the story starts off with. As you were saying, Melanie is curious about and oh, she's a panda, by the way. That's an important detail. Did I say she was a panda?
I don't remember, but
I don't either.
Thank you for pointing that out.
Yes.
And, well,
so the basic premise of the story is that Melanie wants to try out the game Armello, and Vincent used to be a DM for the game, but he has long ago put it behind him.
Yeah,
through a bit of convincing, though.
He doesn't think too much of it.
Yeah, he doesn't have the best memories of playing, but with a bit of prodding and convincing, he agrees to run a one-shot campaign for Melanie and whoever else she's able to get who is interested in playing. Those other players being Nicholas Wilde, Judith Hops, and Daniel Wolford, who his name is Daniel in this game.
Oh yeah, because we don't know his actual name from the movie.
Yeah, we technically don't, but it's one of those things where we're allowed to make it up. So they call him Danny, stuff like that. As far as, familiarity with the game goes, Melanie is completely new to it. Nick and Judy have some experience, but not much. Nick is a bit more experienced than Judy is, and Danny is a big fan and always down to play and knows the game inside and out. He is a seasoned player.
Yeah, I think I will be, in this scenario, I think I will be Melanie. I have no experience in this game.
Yeah, and I would be more like Wolford in this sense. Actually, no, you know what? I'd be more like Nick. I am not nearly as well-versed in D&D sort of rules as I let on when I am DMing.
Yeah, because it's different than being your own character than being the DM.
Yes, there is a big difference between being the DM and being a player, but another thing, something that all DMs know, it is all about just making it up and acting confident. Even if what you are saying is completely against the rules in the book, if you say it right, it'll fly. Feel free to spam us in the comments if you feel that that is a horrible practice and should not be tolerated.
Okay, yeah. Let's find out if they agree on that statement. Yes. Well, in this case, everyone gets to develop their own character for the campaign and choose a clan. Where do they belong to? Mm-hmm. And, as you can expect from, at least, I think I expected that when I was first reading it, when Vincent asked Nick from what clan if he will belong to, and Nick said none, that he will not be part of any clan. That's so him.
Yeah, he chooses to be clanless. Nick of the Wild. WYLD. It's great.
Exactly. And, what's something that's very funny is because Vincent tries to go with the flow about how the game is supposed to go, but Kiefer says, what was it called?
He calls it 3 self-inserts and a Gary stew.
Exactly. Because practically the characters are like that. Because, the Gary stew itself, it's Danny.
It's Wolford's character.
Wolford. Yeah.
Who is playing Thane Greymane, who I know is one of the characters you can play in the computer game Armello. He is playing one of the game characters in the tabletop game, whereas the others are playing original characters who are literally named themselves.
Actually. Even Judy had come up with a different name for her character, and she changed it to Judith.
Yeah, to make Melanie feel more comfortable.
Yep.
Because first-time player, you know?
Exactly.
And Thane Greymane, the Winter Wolf, wayward prince of the North.
Royalty, as expected for Gary Stew-esque character.
Yes, though that doesn't last, but we'll get into that.
Yeah, exactly.
So they've got the party of 4 And if you don't mind, I could read actually chapter 2, which is sort of the introduction to the fantasy world of it. Because the story itself actually alternates between being the story of the out-of-character game that these four are playing, and the in-world, what is happening with the characters.
Yes.
So the story is actually taking place in two different perspectives. One, the perspective of the fantasy game, and one of the players.
Yeah,
So,
you switch back and forth on what's happening on the game, what's happening with the characters when they are playing.
exactly. And so I'll just read the part that would be what the DM reads to introduce the setting. All right?
Sure.
A darkness was creeping over the ancient kingdom of Zootopia, an all-consuming and aberrant blight that sucked the life from the earth, from the forests, from the crops. The wildlife it infected were driven to madness, transformed within days into monstrous, ravishing banes upon the land. Where it came from or how it spread no one knew, only that it was plaguing the wild, hollowing out the terrain and leaving dark, poisoned mires in its wake. The great clans called it the Rot, for that was the essence of its nature, an accursed disease that gouged out the heart, the light from the natural world until it became a gaping void of inky shadow, devoid of warmth and life and goodness. In the south, the Rabbit clan. The old adage, reach high, burrow deep, guided them to great fortune once upon a time. Now they ventured little from the plains of Bunny Burrow, where their fertile fields were slowly becoming more and more unproductive. Once prosperous artisans, their wealth was being depleted trying to keep their many residents happy and fed. Their adventures in the tunnels and the old ruins beneath their cities ceased abruptly when dark, shambling creatures began to creep out from the depths. The entrances to the catacombs were sealed. They hunkered down within the sprawling cities and now falling to tarnish and rust, waiting for a sign that brighter days were returning. In the west, the Bear clan, nomads who found strength in spirit, mammals naturally in sync with the wild, their ancient arcane knowledge allowing them to tap into the channels of magic that flowed within the land. They lived simply in small, close-knit groups within lush forests. Only the city surrounding the wild tree boasted a population of more than a few dozen. It was here that more and more of the elder druids were convening of late. Their rites and rituals brought whispered worries to their lips, a confirmation of the ache they could feel in their bones. The mystical springs were drying up. Magic was waning, balance tipping further and further to ruin. The wild was sick. The rot, the worm, was invading, burrowing deep into her heart. It was killing her. In the north, the Wolf clan, a species who took the concept of pack strong literally. Their culture held clan pride and loyalty in the highest regard. Renowned warriors, adept with the sword and the bow and the lance, they could no longer remain in the sheltered, snow-capped peaks of Tundra Town and keep entertained with sports and tournaments. Even the high cliffs seemed to be losing their inner vitality and began to crumble into the forests at the base of the mountains. The lands they lived off provided meager bounties of late. For the first time in generations, they had to acquaint themselves with trade and travel. With each expedition from their stone cities, indeed, wherever they set down their arms, the grim new reality was becoming clear. A battle was coming. And if there was one thing that the Wolf clan knew, it was how to fight and how to win. In the east, the Rat clan, a sweeping society made up of multitudes of rodents and mustelid species. These were mammals who sought fortune and glory above all. Devious to the point of outright treachery at times, members of the clan of the Rose and Thorn had ins with the high-class merchants and the low-level vagabonds alike, always keeping alert for information that they could use to garner favors, draft new deals, sway the hearts and minds of mammals. They wielded sweet words that hid razor-sharp intentions. The grumblings in the towns and settlements were shuttled to the marshy capital of Happy Town in the canals, the terrible, wonderful information rolling in day and night. The palace gates were closed. The king had gone mad. The land was dying. The clans were afraid. Crime rates rose sharply. Citizens stayed in their villages, holed up in their houses, petrified to leave lest they be attacked on the highways and robbed. Or worse. Bandits and mercenaries, clanless mammals with no kin and no allegiance to the kingdom, grew bold as unrest mounted, looted settlements leveled by strange weather patterns or attacked by banes in the night. The entire realm was coming undone at the seams. Despite the growing concerns amongst the mammal clans, King Lionheart had yet to make any move to combat the developing crisis. Many messengers were sent to the palace only to return empty-pawed to their territories, turned away without response to the letters and missives outlining the mounting losses that the country was suffering. The situation was becoming very dire indeed when, a miracle, palace messengers arrived at the capital gates for each of the great clans. In their paws they held a scroll with a simple summons. His Highness King Leodore Lionheart has great need of your counsel. Woo!
Very good.
Thanks. So that is the setup for the game. Things are going wrong, and all the clans are having issues. And much like in the actual movie, the Rat clan is pretty much ignored throughout the story.
Well, in this case, at least what we could say, it's the Bear clan, the Rabbit clan, and the Wolf clan all actually had to settle who is going to answer the summons so they can address themselves to the king and voice out their concerns for what's happening on the land.
Yep. So Melanie and her teacher, who is definitely Major Friedkin, the polar bear from the training academy, who's not actually playing, but Vincent included her as an NPC. Melanie, the character's mentor, is Major Friedkin, or Mother Friedkin, blah. Basically, they're druids. Judy is a fighter, Nick is a rogue, and... no. What class would Judy be? Regardless, Wolford's character is another fighter. He's like a noble prince.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, she does a lot of spellcasting, so maybe she'd be... she's not really a bard. Anyways.
I'm trying to check, actually, the first part of the story.
Oh, yeah. Does she say in the introductions?
It only mentions that trains to be a palace guard.
Yeah. Okay, well, regardless, moving on. Now, Melanie and her mentor are selected from the Bear clan, and Judy's brothers get selected for the Rabbit clan, but Judy tails along and basically sneaks off to join them. Wolford, he just goes on anyways because he's the prince, of course he goes, and he brings with him his own squire to carry his legendary blade, whatever it was called, wolf something, I don't know. The Wolf clan is about as wolfy as the Space Wolves. I'll put it like that. Everything is wolf, 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 wolf.
Yeah, something that I think we should also not forget to mention, that something very important in this kind of game, so role playing, at least on D&D, it's the players had to make use of the dice so they can get to actually do any movements. Like if they can't act out whatever they want. They have to do it according to what the dice says.
Yes,
whenever
and
they have to
what the DM
throw
says.
them. Exactly, and in the case with Nick, especially because he's clanless, like he mentions that if his character dies, he cannot be reborn into something else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so he's playing on permadeath difficulty. But, on the plus side, he rolls very well when he's making his stats. He doesn't keep that luck, though, as everyone who's played D&D knows, the dice be fickle things.
Yep.
So, you can be on a hot streak 1 second, and then next thing you know, nat ones. So, the game starts off, and basically they've all got their own, stories, and it takes a little bit for them to meet up. Nick and Judy, they meet up, they know each other. Their characters' relationship is a bit antagonistic at first. Care to explain why?
From what I remember, they really have a very nice first meeting, exactly. Like, they're not enemies per se, but
He sold her the skunk butt rug.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Yeah. Thank you for that. I forgot.
Yep.
Like I knew like it was something referenced on the movie. Like this, what happened with Mr. Big, like it will happen to her. Like oh.
Exactly. So they are not on the best of terms, and Judy kind of knocks him into a tree, and she leaves him, and then as he tries to get out, he rolls a nat 1 and basically knocks himself out for 6 to 12 hours, which is just such a classic D&D sort of move.
Oh, it happens really that often.
Yeah. Bad rolls of the dice can very much determine the best and dumbest moments of the game.
But at least he's alive.
Yeah. He is alive. And is not part of the bandit attack that ends up killing Judy's brothers, leaving her with the responsibility to represent their clan to the king.
Tough.
So that's basically their characters' backstories.
Yeah, and the main stuff happens once they do get to the palace to meet King Lionheart,
who is not doing so good.
Yep.
He's kind of gone nuts. He is obsessed with the rot.
Exactly.
And basically we see him turn Monchus and Otterton, rather than turning them savage, he turns them into, what were they called? Blah, 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 blah. Banes. And
we also get to see King Lionheart along with Captain Bogo.
Yes. As King Lionheart, Captain Bogo, and his, not wayward, but meek little, attendant? Servant? I'm not entirely sure, but Bellwether is that. How far into spoilers should we go? Because it's a really good read, and I do highly recommend it. So if you have any inclination of reading the story on your own, we've given you a bit of the background, a little taste of it. Go read it and then come back, alright? Alright, I think that's long enough time for people to have gone and read it and paused this video and then come back. Yeah? So, welcome back. It probably took you a good, 4 or 5, maybe 6 hours? Maybe more? And, yeah, now we're going into spoiler territory.
Yeah, I think what was the funny, at least for me, I think something very funny is what happened when they get surrounded by the guards. And they try to team up so they can get out of the palace because of everyone going after them. And the funniest part is
it's a big fight because the king declares them traitors.
Exactly.
No shock there.
And the funniest part was when Wolflor's character ends up dying.
Yeah. Wolford's, big Gary Stu character, Thane Greymane, or whatever it was, ends up dying in the first combat encounter. Which is, oh my goodness, such a classic D&D. I mean, he was warned. He was given ample opportunities by Vincent, the DM, to not engage, to not... he made a heroic stand sacrifice and had some pretty cool last words, but in the end, Wolford had to re-roll and make a new character.
Yeah. That's the good part of being part of the clan, that he was able to come up with a new character.
Yeah, he ends up taking on the role of Thane Greymane's squire, Wolford. So now they're all playing their own selves in the game. Went from a bunch of self-inserts to all the self-inserts.
And I want to make the brief mention of what happened with Melanie's. Well, I got used to being called Shifu.
Yeah, her Sifu,
her
teacher, made Mother Friedkin. Yeah.
She also sacrificed herself.
Yep.
Like
So,
she encouraged Melanie to go on and continue what they went to the palace in the first place.
hmm and essentially, the two senior experienced characters of the group are dead. And the rest are left on their own, but thanks to Melanie's expert teleportation spell, they end up surviving the encounter, which was not what Vincent the DM planned to do. He planned to kill them all right there, and just end the game early.
Yeah, because he really didn't want to, I would say,
He
expand the
didn't
game
want to play
itself.
the game.
Because
Yep.
for him, it's a waste of time.
Yeah, Okay, so a little bit of explanation. He was. His previous experience was being the Eternal DM.
Going on and on and on.
Yeah, and it can get taxing. It can lead to very bad experiences if you are always the one who has to prepare everything and nobody else takes the game seriously. I totally get it. I have been there before. So, while his frustration is understandable, part of this conflict of the story is how he takes it out, and the unhealthy ways in which he does so. Which, yeah, for a therapist, you'd think he'd know better.
Yeah, that's a good point. But
But no,
fortunately,
instead he uses all their traumas against them.
uh-oh.
Yeah, not good. Not a good look, but dude, not very good at all.
A way to kind of make them hesitant to continue.
Yeah. He wants to get it over and done with, and yeah.
But also the characters, the players are do get creative so they can keep going.
Yeah. Which is always fun to see your players succeed and innovate and come up with creative solutions to the problems you give them. That's the fun of the game, you know? Yeah.
Well, we were mentioning about Vincent trying to get the game as quick as possible.
Yes. Yeah, so basically, despite his best efforts, the story continues and they teleport out into the area where Nick and his bandit crew are. Well, are.
Oh yeah.
Where they are.
Yeah, because it was kind of like a truce or something like that. I don't remember, but because
Yes.
let's not forget he's still clanless. He
Yeah,
just
he's
tries.
clanless and he was trying to join a clan of robbers and bandits. The Bandit King, specifically.
But at the end, it doesn't happen.
Yeah, he betrays the bandits and joins the party. Woohoo! Good on you, Nick.
And after that, they need to go incognito so they can find a way to go back.
Yes, so that they can figure out how to defeat Lionheart and save Zootopia, which is a bit of a task now that they are labeled as fugitives and on the run from the law.
And it's going to be quite a task for them.
Yes, but there is hope. Melanie knows of a MacGuffin. 4 stones. What are they called? Spirit stones? I think they're called spirit stones.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Yeah. So basically, if you can get the 4 spirit stones together, it'll cleanse the rot, and yay, the day is saved. Trouble is, they don't know where to find them. So, the quest begins. In earnest this time. So, regardless, Nick joins the party. They are on a quest to find the 4 spirit stones, and they have to do. Well, first they go to a shop in, I think it's Little Rodentia, or is it somewhere? It's a shady part of town. But Nick knows a guy.
There's no. Let me just try to remember. There was not an equivalent to Tundra Town.
No. Tundra Town equivalent was where Wolford was from.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it is Little Rodentia. It's in Rat Clan territory. I just looked it up. So in Armello, apparently there's like illusion magic, so you can use disguises to make yourself look like any other type of creature. So Wolford was transformed into an absurdly short fennec fox.
Reference to Finnick.
Yes. And Melanie was transformed into the form of a plump shrew with an impressive mop of hair. AKA Frou Frou.
Oh, well, very fashionable as well.
Oh, yes. Very fashionable. So basically, they go see this information broker that Nick knows in order to get some clues on what's been going on and how to proceed. While there, Melanie is drawn to an artifact that is glowing, and turns out that's one of the stones. Convenient. But it doesn't end exactly the best, because a fight breaks out. Of course, it does. It's D&D. Or it's Armello in this case. It's a TTRPG. Of course a fight breaks out when you try to steal the thing from the vendor.
Yeah, and that practically kind of like continues on as when they had to pick all the other stones, like they have to face some sort of challenge so they can get it. But it's also like I said, very common that it usually gets to be either fighting or they have to run away so they won't get harmed.
Mm-hmm. So the three major core tenets of a tabletop role-playing game are combat, exploration, and roleplay. There's a good amount of all three of those in this story. Plenty of exploration through the different towns, meeting new characters, plenty of dialogue and roleplay, and a good chunk of combat, especially when they split the party, which, don't you know, you never split the party. It's common wisdom that is not always correct. Sometimes you should split the party, but it can make combat a lot more difficult, especially if you get into a combat encounter without the necessary healer.
Oh yeah, I forgot. Yeah, the healer is also a role. Yeah, you can choose. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. So they get ambushed after one of them finds another stone, which I do appreciate that in the descriptions of their locations, and it says the right, wrong path. Because two of them went to the right, two of them went to the left, at a fork in the road, and the right path was the wrong path. Anyhow, big combat ensues, and the party almost gets TPK'd. Which, if you don't know, means total party kill.
That will have made Vincent really happy.
Yeah, and Nick's character almost dies, and he is, as you mentioned earlier, clanless, so he can't continue.
He was practically almost gone.
But, thankfully, they know someone. Actually, no, the TPK wasn't there. So they know someone, and Nick has an idea. It slips the DM a note of who he knows, because he took the I know a guy character trait, and he essentially forced Vincent to be himself as a DM, or as a DMPC. Basically forced Vincent into the game.
Which was something he didn't want in the first place.
No, it was not. So his character is about as reluctant as the actual player.
Another self-insert.
Mm-hmm. In this whole party of them. And essentially, things go wrong. They manage to cure Nick of poison, but they end up getting found by the guards, and big fight comes out, and that's where the TPK almost happens. And that is where things kind of blow up out of character. As in, he literally sets the character that Nick made him play on fire.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, he literally, burns the whole place down.
I know the idea is to talk about a bit more spoilers, but maybe we should not try to go too much into it. Otherwise, the episode will be much longer.
Yeah, you know what? That's probably a good idea. So, Okay, we've talked a lot about it, and we've gone into the plot a lot. We've got about 2/3 of the way through the story,
Yeah.
and reached the big climactic, like, turning point where the in-character and out-of-character sort of, like, come to a head. And you know what? Y'all can go read the rest yourself.
Yeah, but for those who already know the movie, perhaps you might have a bit of an idea of what might happen later on in the story.
Yep,
Because,
when they actually do encounter Lionheart.
yeah, because there are some events from the game that are kind of a parallel of what happened in the movie. So
Exactly.
you get to have
You
an
can make your
idea.
best guess.
Yeah.
Or just go read it. We'll have a link in the description. But now I think we should talk about our thoughts on it all.
Yeah, well, for me, being someone who's really not that into role playing games, so reading something like this was something different for me. Like trying to going back and forth, like what we was mentioned previously about two different settings that is the actual role playing game and the characters outside of the game. It was kind of a bit confusing at some points. Like there were some interventions that were really funny, but also it was kind of like confusing. Like okay, I need to be able to catch on the idea of what's happening here, what's happening outside the game, and so it will get a bit lost. But in general, I think the setting was really creative in this case of yeah, because technically here Zootopia is a bit more of a fantasy medieval environment, like it was mentioned
Yeah.
previously. That like usually the majority of D&D game scenarios consist of that. So it was really cool to see Zootopia in that kind of setting. Of instead of being something like we see in the movie that it's more up to date of how people live nowadays in put it in a different setting was really nice.
Yeah, it's a nice change of pace. I did like the bouncing back and forth between the different perspectives, because as like the in-game versus out-of-game story, and how that all was developing, because as I've been on both sides, it's a lot of fun. The thing that kind of threw me at the start was the fact that this is book 2 of a series, and we didn't quite realize that when we chose this story. So we were not familiar with the characters of Melanie and Vincent.
Yeah, like you can get a bit of an idea of who they are with only the introduction of the story, but still, it really
It takes
does.
a little bit to get the hang of them, though.
Yeah, because like it just introduces them from the get go. Like they don't give us an actual background of who they are or anything. So in
Yeah.
that department, like maybe it's not that necessary because that background it's not actually required in the story itself, but it would
Yeah,
have
we've
been good.
summarized what you need to know.
Exactly, like it would have been perhaps it would have been a nice idea to get a bit of a summary of who these characters are for those who are not familiar with the
At
series.
the
It's
very least, like, a bit of background on their species and their jobs. Because
yeah, like
that
all
was noticeably lacking.
yeah, but like obviously because it's a part of a series of stories. Like people who have read the first part obviously are gonna know who they are, but
Hmm.
like maybe not exactly take one or two paragraph, like just with some short sentences, just
Yeah,
introduce
sprinkled in.
them, like get us to know who they are if they are other people who are not familiar with the series itself.
Yeah, and like full disclosure, this isn't the fault of the author. We like she literally warned us before we started this is that hey, this is the second story, like you need to know who these characters are, and I was just like, okay, I think I'll get it, and then I did not get it, and so that is entirely on me, so sorry about that. That it is not a fair criticism because I was warned and I ignored it.
We need to
It
plan ahead of time when we get to make a new episode about reading a new story. We need to
yes, we'll
make sure about those kind
You
of
know,
things.
this was a good first experiment with the book club format. I will say, overall, love the story. It is a great story. Don't get me wrong. It is very small criticism that, like, it took a little bit of rereading to figure out who these characters were. Once you got past chapter 1, you're set.
Yeah. It's pretty easy to follow in that regard.
Yeah, absolutely. The Armello game, it is fantastic and fun, and I'm sure there were a lot of references to the original game that just went over my head. Like, I think that there's a bit with the stranger, who given the way it's talked about in the story, I am positive it is a thing in Armello that I have no idea about. So,
Me neither.
but it's an enjoyable read even if you haven't played Armello. So, I seriously give this a hearty recommendation. I'd give it like 4 stars out of 5. Good story.
Yep, I think I'll also do that.
Yeah,
I also
4
give
out of
that
5.
4 out of 5, yeah. It is pretty a nice read.
Yeah, it's fun. It's like silly at points. It's like dramatic, like where it needs to be. Pandora has her signature angst. Like, it's all good. So yeah, that was Armellotopia. Again, highly recommend you read it.
And also, go ahead and check out the other stories that are also written by Pandora if you are interested in the series itself. Patches and Prompts.
Yes, exactly. So definitely read it. What was it? It Happened at Night, which is the first story of the series, and then the next one is Cornucopia, followed by One More Light and Heart to Heart, which are both one-shot. Well, actually, the last 3 are very short stories, like 4 chapters. Then the last 2 are 1 chapter each, are one-shots. The first one, though, What Happened at Night, is the largest of them at 143,000 words. So it'll take you a little while, but recommended. Whole series recommended. Everything Pandora's written, highly recommended.
Very nice.
Yeah. So next time on the podcast, I think we'll leave it a secret.
Oh, yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, that's a go then. We're planning something different for next time, but I think it will be much better if we can surprise you with that.
Yes, definitely. We want to surprise you with it. We definitely have a plan. I say that with full confidence and no sarcasm whatsoever. No, seriously, we do have a plan.
Yeah, I know that, but yeah, it sounds funny still.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. Hey, I mean, what? Do I not instill, like, the greatest confidence after, like, accidentally making this episode a month late?
Yeah, of course.
We'll try not to do that again. Sorry about that.
Yeah, we'll make sure to get every new episode a month.
Yes. I would say that is a wrap. So until next time, as always, I'm Andy Lagopis.
And I'm Pinkstar, very happy to be part of the podcast once again.
Me too. And boom. Are we still doing that as an outro?